slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. I think about these two lines a lot. It is from the book of Proverbs, which is one of my favorite books. I read from it almost every single day for a couple of years now. It's a book that I recommend to many people, and one of the few books that I make a point to reread often. Hence the fact that I read it every day. That line specifically comes from Proverbs 10, verses 4 through 5. And the reason I appreciate it, it's 2 verses for a grand total of 2 sentences. And it communicates a very helpful message. Verse 4 says, "A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich." Meaning, a slack hand being a hand that's slacking off and not putting much effort in, and that will create poverty. Sitting around doing nothing and not working, just sitting on your phone or playing video games or wasting away or, engaging in vices, slack hand is not useful. And poverty comes along with that for many people. The next sentence, next verse. He who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. That idea being summer is a harvest time in this context. That is implying that this is a harvest time and the harvest is ready and it needs to be collected. Simple enough. And that is prudence to do that. It's wisdom and encouragement to do that. But he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. The crops are ready. Everything is ready to be collected and you're sleeping and you're not working. The implication is shameful. And a lot of therapists really hate the word shame, and I'm not a huge fan of it either. There's semantics, but there's arguments for some healthy usage of the word, which we're not going to take that much time really today to address that. But the idea there is that it's shameful to sleep through a harvest. And I use this reminder in many ways as I extrapolate from it into other parts of my life. Some examples. I have an actual example. Today, I had a couple work-related calls that were related to consultation, so potential people I could work with. And they took pretty much the number one priority over anything else today, is get the calls in. And I behave this way a lot with new clients that I'm seeing and new patients that I'm seeing, is I get them in as soon as possible. And why? Because that's a potential harvest. And that's not the only reason. This verse comes up a lot as I prioritize things. But there's also a lot to do with courtesy. Or if someone is reaching out for services, you don't want them to wait. And what's interesting is when you look at a lot of just common decency and courtesy, there's a high correlation with businesses being successful when they just treat people well, which, surprise, right? And this idea of there's opportunity in front of you. Why are you sleeping and just waiting to see what happens? It doesn't make any sense, right? Someone inquires about your services for the work that you do. Why would you put that off? There's some boundary setting that might be necessary, but same with this. A harvest isn't always done over a day. But that person in harvest season might work from sun up till sundown, literally the entire usage of light that they have. And then they'll eat and they'll wind down and maybe, have their evening plans by candlelight and read a book or something. But they're going to be in harvest season and there's not going to be a lot of extra. And there's other seasons where we relax a little bit, right? Thanksgiving's coming up this next week and I'm taking off, officially off 5 days for work. I'll be out of town 6, but I'm taking off 5. And for me to rest well, I have to harvest well, so to speak. I have to prepare my work. So, I can't just prepare for a normal week, because if I'm taking time off, I need that work deferred or taken care of early, or other things covered. One, to respect the work that I'm doing. So people who count on me need to be acknowledged and respected. And then potentially planning for stuff the first few days that I get back to have that ready. But then also just making sure I can rest well, and then I'm not constantly thinking about, oh no, I didn't get this done, or should I have done that, or whatever. That's the prudence mindset for that situation, is getting ahead of those issues. So slack hand causes poverty. Well, I could go into vacation and be like, I'm just taking the time off. And some people do that. And they say it's just time off. But I have the mindset of, I usually work extra the week before and the week after going out of town to make up for lost time. And it's different in my work because I'm a business owner, just like the people in the context of when Proverbs was written, there wasn't like allocated time off where it's like, oh, this is just not, like, the work has to get done. You don't just delay, especially with agriculture and crops and harvest. You can't tell the plants to just hang on for 5 days while you take your vacation time. Now, you plan around harvest season, and especially in, Jewish culture and Hebrew culture at that time, you would also be celebrating different feasts, and you'd be making pilgrimages, and they happen at certain times of year that are predictable and you can plan for. And that's important, where, you try to avoid a harvest season for these things. And that matters. It matters a lot, actually. So I think about these a lot when there's work that I don't want to do, or I'm trying to figure out what to do. If I have, an email sitting there or a voicemail sitting there about a potential client or patient or work prospect of some sort, maybe it's training opportunity for me to offer training or anything, it's kind of crazy to leave that hanging. Why make them wait any longer than they need to? Now, I've probably mentioned some of these videos before. I'm diligent about taking Saturday off. I'm off on Saturdays no matter what. And then Sundays, it kind of just depends on family needs and responsibilities. And so I'm adamant about that. I take that off. But when I'm working, I work. It's my goal. And that's how I triage. Prospective new people, I get back to immediately. I don't want them to wait. That's a harvest potentially. And then people that I'm currently seeing, again, respecting that time, reach back out to them. And I triage that way. So just things that involve, I like the harvest language. So there are some things that just don't need that immediate attention. So I'm not the type of person that responds to emails in the order I receive them. I respond to emails typically in the order of importance. That's not always the case. Sometimes there's certain emails that, it's going to take me 20, 30 minutes to respond appropriately. So I might push them to an empty time later in the day or at the end of the day, and there might be a less important email, but it only takes 2 or 3 minutes to respond to. So I'm triaging that way of like, well, I have time between appointments to respond. But generally, I triage, and that also assumes I haven't gotten behind, because I definitely go through seasons where my inbox is more full than I would like it to be. But generally, my goal every day is to leave with my inbox saying empty, nothing in it. And I do that most of the time. So, and harvest look like a lot of different things. So I won't get too into details right now, but in my personal life, I'm in what you might call harvest season, where something I've been working on. This is a better way to say this. There's a certain topic that I've been interested in for about a year now. And I studied it a little bit about this time last year, maybe 13 months ago. Then let it sit, and then about 3 months ago, I just got interested again, and I started reading on it, and I am very invigorated and enriched by it, and I've just kept studying it. It's a topic I've really wanted to study, and it hasn't made sense. But right now, I have the ability to study it and the excitement. And there were other things I was planning to do, but I'm capitalizing on what I would consider a harvest of interest and a harvest of the mind. What I mean by that is I've been developing this background interest, and it's just exploded, and I'm super interested right now. And so I've chosen to just press into that interest like crazy. And I'm like, I had other things I was wanting to do and read on, but my interest is high, so it takes less energy to do it. So this topic that I've been wanting to study, I want to do it right now. And so I'm making sure I get my responsibilities done. But other hobbies I'm kind of putting on the back burner, or other things that I was looking at potentially studying or looking into right now, I'm doing as little as I need to do because I have such high energy and excitement for this other thing that I want to ride that wave as long as I can. So that you could argue that that's a harvest of the mind. Like, that crop is ready mentally. So just a concept, an idea to think about. So Proverbs 10:4-5, if you've read it, what do you think? If you're religious, what do you think about it? And if you're not religious, what do you think about it? Because I love the different perspectives there. Are you the type of person that presents with a slack hand, or are you diligent during times of harvest? I'm curious. So, yeah, as always, curious people's thoughts. If you're interested in connecting, as always, reach out. And yeah, it's a fun topic today. So, that's it for this Monday. And I'll look forward to seeing everyone next week, Thanksgiving week. See you then. Bye.